What if every secret you ever buried could be pulled straight out of your mind? In a world where technology can expose memories, one woman's past unravels into a chilling web of crime, murder, and betrayal. This is not just a story about solving a mystery. It is about how far someone will go to keep the truth buried. It was supposed to be a fun night. Just two dumb kids doing dumb things. We had been drinking, laughing, not thinking about tomorrow. That cold wind slicing through the dark, you could taste the ice in the air. I remember how the fog rolled off the road and made the headlights look like they were cutting through milk. Rob was driving. He always insisted he was the better driver, even when he had a few too many. I never argued with him about that. We were halfway through the mountains, some old road barely lit, just the two of us and the stupid choices we were about to make. I do not remember what song was playing on the radio, maybe some old classic rock tune, but I do remember how quickly everything turned. There was a guy on a bike. I saw him maybe 2 seconds before the car slammed into him. Just a blur, blue jacket, helmet, reflective straps, then a loud thud, and this awful crunching sound that you can never unhear once you've heard it. Rob hit the brakes so hard we both slammed forward. The car swerved and stopped sideways on the road. We sat in silence for a second, like our brains had to catch up with what just happened. Then we got out. The cyclist, he was lying there, twisted, not moving. A small pool of blood was already starting to form around his head. His front wheel was bent in on itself like a pretzel, still spinning slowly. I felt my stomach drop. I wanted to call for help. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking. But Rob grabbed my arm. "Do not," he said. "Mia, do not do this." He was pale, breathing fast. "I am on probation," he kept saying. "This will ruin me. They will throw me in prison." He looked me right in the eyes. "Help me." I did not want to, but I did. We dragged the man's body off the road, behind some rocks. His bicycle went over the guardrail and down into the ravine. Then we got back into the car and drove. No words, no music, just the heater on full blast and the sound of Rob's heavy breathing. I kept telling myself it was a nightmare, that I would wake up, but I never did. We made a deal that night, never to speak of it again. Not to anyone, not even each other. Years passed, and I buried it. I got married, had a kid, built a life. But the past, it does not stay buried forever. 15 years, that's how long I managed to keep that night locked away in the back of my mind like some dusty box in the attic you don't want to open. I had built something solid since then, a good job in architecture, married to a kind man who worked in tech, and we had a little boy who loved dinosaurs and fell asleep with his toy triceratops every night. We moved to a quiet town with snow-capped mountains, far away from where it all happened. I had everything people told you to be grateful for, but peace is a funny thing. It's never really yours, not when you're hiding something. I was in the city for a design expo, some conference about sustainable urban housing. It was the kind of trip I used to look forward to. New clients, free wine, hotel sheets that smelled like bleach and money. The kind of thing that made you feel like your past couldn't reach you there. I had just gotten back to my hotel room, kicked off my shoes, and was halfway through peeling off my makeup when I heard a knock on the door. It was Rob. I stared at him like a ghost had just walked into the room. He looked older, tired, like the weight of the world had been hanging on his shoulders for years. His hair was thinning, and he had a scar near his temple that I didn't remember. "Mia, I had to see you." I stepped aside and let him in, more out of shock than anything else. He paced the room like he couldn't sit still. His hands were shaking. He kept wringing them together like he was trying to wring out the guilt. And then he said it. "I cannot live with it anymore," he said. "I see that man every night. I hear the noise, the thud. His eyes staring at nothing. I tried therapy, pills, meditation. I even went vegan. I let out a breath through my nose, trying to keep myself from panicking. "I am going to confess," he said. The words hit me like a brick. "No," I said, standing up. "You cannot. You promised." He shook his head. "That promise was made by someone I don't recognize anymore. I am dying inside. Maybe prison is better than this." He pulled a piece of paper out of his pocket. It was already written, a confession letter. He hadn't mailed it yet, but he was going to. And I snapped. All the years I had spent trying to be normal, trying to be happy, started to crumble right there on that hotel carpet. I begged him not to. I pleaded, but he was set on it. He kept saying it was the only way to forgive himself. And the thing is, I believed him. But I couldn't let him do it. Not with a kid at home, not with everything I had built. One move from him and it all would collapse like a badly drawn blueprint. So I did something awful. I grabbed the lamp from the nightstand, heavy, chrome-plated, and before I could talk myself out of it, I brought it down on his skull. Once, twice, then everything went silent. Just his body slumped on the floor, blood on the hotel carpet, and my hands shaking. I had crossed a line you don't come back from. And I knew that from now on, I was not just someone hiding a secret. I was someone running from her own shadow.
I just stood there for a few seconds, frozen. The chrome lamp was still in my hand. It had blood on the edge. Rob's blood. My friend, or at least the man who used to be my friend, was lying on the hotel floor. His head was cracked open. He wasn't breathing. The hum of the mini fridge in the corner sounded louder than ever. It was like the whole room was holding its breath, waiting to see what I'd do next. I dropped the lamp. It landed with a dull thud on the carpet, not making a sound I thought it would. I stared at Rob's body, thinking maybe he'd wake up. Maybe I just knocked him out. But deep down, I knew what I had done. I crossed a line that was never meant to be crossed. And then instinct took over. I grabbed a towel from the bathroom and wiped down everything I had touched. The lamp, the doorknobs, the table, even the light switch. I didn't know if it would help. I was panicking, acting more on fear than logic. I looked around for anything he might have left behind. That confession letter, it was still in his pocket. I took it and tore it into pieces, flushed it down the toilet in 3 separate flushes. The water turned pink with blood on the last one. I kept seeing the guy on the bike, his body, that seemed fear. And now Rob had joined that memory. I wrapped Rob in the hotel comforter. I remember thinking how soft it was, too nice for what I was doing with it. I dragged him to the room closet. It was tight, but he fit. Sort of. I had to push the door shut with my foot. I knew the hotel had cameras in the hallway, but I kept telling myself they only record entrances, not guests' private rooms. I'd paid in cash at check-in. That was one thing I was grateful for. My husband hated credit cards, said they left a paper trail. That little habit might have just saved me. I took a hot shower after that. Too hot. My skin turned red, but I still felt dirty. I kept scrubbing my arms over and over. I could smell the iron in Rob's blood, even though I'd washed it off. It was like it had gotten into my pores. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling. I told myself I had no other choice, that Rob had forced my hand, that I had a family to protect. But no matter how I spun it in my head, I knew what I was. A killer. In the morning, I checked out like nothing happened. The woman at the front desk smiled, told me to enjoy the rest of my trip. I nodded, thanked her. My voice sounded hollow. My smile was plastic. My soul was somewhere else. I left the city behind me, driving fast, hoping to outrun the guilt. But guilt, it travels light. It fits right into the passenger seat. And by the time I got home, it was already whispering in my ear.
I thought I was in the clear. When I got home, I hugged my husband like I had just come back from war. He didn't ask many questions, just smiled and made me a cup of tea. Our boy ran up to me in his dinosaur pajamas, hugged my legs, and started telling me something about a cartoon he saw. I just nodded and smiled, trying not to cry. I kept telling myself, "It's over. You did what you had to do." But that feeling, the one that crawls under your skin when you've done something terrible, it doesn't go away. It waits. And sure enough, it came knocking again. 2 days after I got home, I got a message on my phone. Anonymous. No name, just one line. "We need to talk. I saw what you did." My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might throw up right there in the kitchen. At first I thought maybe it was a prank, someone trying to mess with me. But the more I sat with it, the more I felt that cold grip of fear tightening around my chest. I didn't reply. I deleted the message, but that only made me more paranoid. I went back through every moment in that hotel, every step, every breath. Had I missed something? Then it hit me. The maid. She had come in to clean the hallway while I was dragging Rob's body across the carpet. I had peeked through the peephole before opening the door. I saw no one. But what if she came around the corner after I shut the door? What if she saw just enough? I did some digging, called the hotel, pretending to be someone from a local charity offering small thank you gifts to cleaning staff. The manager was happy to help, gave me her name. Janice Lim, early 20s, worked part-time, lived with her brother on the edge of the city. Sweet girl, from what the manager said. Always on time, never complained. And now, she was a threat. I stared at her picture online for a long time. Found her social media. She had a dog, a beagle. She liked to post pictures of her lunch. Salads, mostly. She didn't seem like someone who would blackmail a murderer. But it didn't matter. She knew something. I didn't sleep that night. My husband asked me what was wrong. I said it was just stress from work. I kissed him on the forehead and told him I'd be better in the morning. I wasn't. Next day, I drove back to the city, told my family I had meetings. I had none. I parked outside Janice's apartment and waited in the car like a creep. She came out around 11 a.m., wearing a big green coat and earbuds in her ears. She didn't see me. She just walked her dog like it was any other normal day. But for me, it wasn't. I followed her. Not close, just enough to keep her in view. She stopped by a bakery, grabbed a coffee, and sat on a bench by the park. I was sweating. My heart wouldn't slow down. Every second felt like a lifetime. And then she looked over her shoulder, right at me. We locked eyes for 1 second, maybe less, but I knew. She knew.
I should have walked away. The smart move would have been to get back in my car and drive home to my husband and son. Pretend I never saw her. Pretend the past was buried deep enough not to come back. But I didn't do the smart thing. She was sitting there, across the street, on a worn-out wooden bench in the middle of the park. Coffee cup in one hand, leash in the other. Her little beagle was sniffing at the grass, tail wagging like nothing in the world could ever go wrong. She looked so normal, young, innocent, kind, just a regular girl trying to make it through life. And yet, something about her, or maybe what she might have seen, made her dangerous. I stepped out of the car and walked over. My heart was pounding in my chest so loud it was almost hard to hear my own footsteps. I didn't even have a plan. Just fear and adrenaline pushing me forward. "Janice," I asked when I got close. She looked up, confused at first, then recognition sparked across her face. "Oh, you were staying at the hotel, right? For that architecture thing?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, that's right. Small world." She laughed. It was light and genuine, like she wasn't afraid of me at all. She said, "You looked kind of stressed that night, like flustered."
I figured you were just nervous before your big speech." I stared at her. My throat was dry. You saw me that night?" "Yeah," she said, shrugging like it was nothing. "You came out of your room late, carrying something. A blanket, maybe? I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. I was at the end of my shift." That was it. She had seen just enough. Not a body, not blood, not a murder, but enough to plant a seed of memory, enough for something to grow later, a thought, a suspicion, maybe even a tip to the police when the time came. I sat down next to her on the bench, tried to keep my breathing calm. Did you send me a message? Like a text?" She raised her eyebrows. "Me? No, I'm barely on my phone these days. It's been acting weird." "Why?" I didn't answer, because I knew it wasn't her. Someone else had sent that message, and I'd been so busy chasing shadows, I'd almost hurt the wrong person. Almost. Still, she knew something. I watched her for a moment while she played with her dog. She told me she was saving up for school, veterinary studies of all things. She loved animals. Didn't drink, didn't party, lived with her brother in a tiny flat across town. Just a good kid trying to get ahead. But that didn't matter, because good people talk. Good people try to do the right thing. And one day, Janice might remember more, might put the pieces together, might speak. I told her I was working on a new housing development, said I was interviewing locals for feedback, offered her a little gift card for her time. She smiled, agreed without hesitation. She had no idea what was coming. And neither did I, really. Because I wasn't just fighting to stay free. I was fighting a war against the truth itself. We left the park just before noon. Janice walked beside me, still sipping her coffee, holding her leash in one hand and chatting like we were old friends. I told her my car was parked nearby and that the meeting spot was just a quick ride out of town, a private space I used to get away from the noise. She did not question it, just smiled and said, "Sounds peaceful." I opened the door for her. She stepped in without hesitation. The dog, his name is Tygo, jumped in after her, tail wagging. I sat behind the wheel, pretending this was just another work errand, but my hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My stomach was a knot, the kind that tightens more every time you try to breathe. The drive started out quiet. Janice stared out the window, pointing at the mountains in the distance, talking about how she wanted to hike more, get out of the city. I nodded, made small talk. It was all so normal, like I was driving my niece to her college interview. But in my mind, I was spiraling. What was I doing? I looked over at her, young, bright, full of dreams. She had no idea the woman beside her had killed a man just days ago, had hid the body, had cleaned up like it was some kind of construction job. She said something then, something that nearly broke me. "You seem really nice. I was kind of nervous when you first walked up. You looked so serious. But now that I've talked to you, you remind me of my sister." I almost hit the brakes right there. But I didn't. I smiled instead. A fake one. The kind you practice in front of the mirror when you're lying to your own reflection. We drove for another 20 minutes, heading into the hills. I had a spot in mind, a place no one went anymore. It used to be a service road during a construction project years ago. Now it was just dirt and silence. I parked the car. Janice looked confused. "This is where the interview is?" I nodded. "Just over the ridge. There's a little structure up the hill. Great view." She grabbed her coat, whistled for Tygo, and we started walking. My legs felt like they were made of stone. Every step felt like one step closer to a cliff I couldn't climb back down. We reached the top. An old shack stood near the edge of a frozen lake, abandoned, Perfect. I stopped and turned to her. "Janice?" She turned around, smiling. "Yeah?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. I stared at her. The words tangled in my throat. She looked so trusting, so completely unaware of what I was about to do. And in that moment, I hated myself more than I ever thought possible. But I had come this far. Too far. I reached into my coat and pulled out the wrench I had hidden in the side pocket, the same one I'd kept in my trunk for years, just in case. It felt heavier than I remembered. She saw it. Her smile faded. And for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Real, raw fear. And I realized this was it. No turning back.
Time slowed down the moment Janice saw the wrench. It was like we both knew what was about to happen. Her eyes widened, her breath caught, and she took a half step back, just one. But it said everything. Fear hit her like a wave, and guilt hit me even harder. She raised her hands, voice trembling. "What's going on? Mia, please!" I shook my head, but I couldn't look her in the eye. I whispered, "I'm sorry." She turned to run, but it was too late. I grabbed her by the coat, pulled her back, and swung. The first hit landed on her shoulder, not hard enough to knock her down, just enough to make her cry out. She screamed, a sharp, panicked sound that echoed out across the frozen hills. I told myself not to hesitate. Not again. I brought the wrench down again, and this time she collapsed. I think it was the third hit that ended it, when she stopped moving, stopped making noise. Just silence. Except for the dog. Tygo barked and barked. He circled her body, whining, trying to nudge her awake with his nose. That sound, his helpless little yelps, might have been worse than the actual killing. He had no idea what just happened, only that his person was lying there in the snow, not getting back up. I stood there, staring down at her. Blood on the ground, on the white snow, on my gloves. It was so quiet I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears, like a drum over and over again. I thought about who she was. A good person, a kind girl, someone who didn't deserve this. Someone who could have lived a full life, gone to school, become a vet, helped animals, maybe even had kids someday. But I stole all of that from her. And for what? To protect myself? To keep a lie going just a little longer? I dropped to my knees beside her. Not out of grief. I don't know what it was. Shock, maybe. My arms were trembling. My stomach felt like it was turning inside out. I thought I might throw up right there next to her. But there was no time. I had to move. I dragged her body across the frozen ground toward the shack. I opened the door with one shaky hand. It creaked like something out of a horror movie. The place hadn't been used in years, dust and old tools inside. Perfect. I pulled her inside, laid her down on a tarp I found in the corner, and wrapped her up. I told myself I'd come back and bury her, maybe even dump her in the frozen lake once the sun went down. But first, I had to do something about the dog. Tygo was sitting just outside the shack door, still whining. He looked up at me, his little brown eyes full of confusion. I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I locked him in the shack with her and walked away. As I left, I could hear him scratching at the door. Tiny paws, tiny sounds. But they stuck with me. Even after I got in the car, even after I drove off, even after the road turned to silence again. I told myself it was over, that Janice was the last one, that I had cleaned up the mess, tied off every loose end. I drove back down the hills, washed up at a gas station, changed into fresh clothes,
and threw the bloodied gloves into a dumpster behind a diner. Then I went home. My husband was making spaghetti. Our son was playing with blocks on the living room floor. Everything looked exactly the same as I had left it, as if the world hadn't just cracked open up in the mountains. I kissed them both and smiled through the weight in my chest. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Not just Janice, all of them. Rob, the cyclist, Janice, and even Tygo scratching at that door, begging to be let out. But morning came, like it always does. And with it came someone new. Her name was Shazia. She showed up in a little electric company van with an insurance logo on the side. Friendly, chipper, too polite for someone who might be holding a grenade in her hands. I answered the door, still in my robe. She smiled and asked if I had time for a few questions. Something about an accident that happened nearby. A self-driving delivery truck had hit a pedestrian a block away, and my house was in range of the signal tower. She said the insurance company was following up with nearby residents to collect any memories that might help settle the claim. I blinked. Memories? She held up a small device, smooth, rounded, almost like a medical scanner. She said, "It's called a recaller, non-invasive, reads visual memories straight from the brain. We only look at what's relevant to the incident. It's anonymized, secure, all that." I nearly dropped the coffee cup in my hand. She thought she was here for something simple, a traffic accident, routine data collection. She had no idea what she was stepping into. I tried to keep calm. I didn't see anything. We were asleep. My husband snores loud enough to drown out gunfire. She laughed politely. Totally understandable. Sometimes, though, we get fragments. Even if you were asleep, the system might pick up audio or flashes from the outside. Would you mind if I just ran a quick scan? I promise we only view the immediate memory window around the accident time. It's anonymized, secure, all that. My heart was beating so hard I thought it might break a rib. But I nodded, because saying no might raise suspicion. She sat me down on the couch, placed the recaller behind my ear, and tapped on her tablet. "It'll feel a little warm, and you might see flashes. Just don't panic." I closed my eyes, and in my mind, the accident from the hotel flashed by. Rob, blood, carpet, then Janice. The wrench, snow, the barking, all of it. I prayed the device couldn't dig that deep, but when I opened my eyes and saw the look on her face, that shift from cheerful to cautious, I knew it had caught something it shouldn't have.
I felt the tension in the room shift as Shazia's eyes locked onto her tablet screen. Her smile faltered. The warm, friendly tone in her voice was gone. Now she was serious, like she'd just found something unexpected. I swallowed hard. "Is something wrong?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She didn't look at me at first, just stared at the screen, fingers flicking across it. Then she looked up, eyes sharp. "There's a glitch. Something unusual popped up during the scan. It's outside the usual parameters." My heart pounded. "A glitch?" I repeated, voice shaking. "Yeah. The recaller picked up a visual fragment. It's faint, but definitely not part of the traffic accident window. More like something earlier." I forced a laugh, trying to keep my cool. "Must be a bug. Technology isn't perfect, right?" Shazia nodded slowly. "True, but the thing is, I've never seen this before. It's like the device read deeper than intended. It's almost like a memory buried beneath another." I could feel sweat forming on my forehead. I thought about Rob, about Janice, about every secret I'd buried in my past, like it was a ticking bomb. She tapped a button, and a blurry image appeared on her tablet. Something dark, moving fast, shadows shifting. "Can you explain this?" she asked quietly. I had no idea. Shazia's gaze didn't soften. "Mia, this could be serious. The insurance company has the right to review all data related to accidents in the area, and the recaller isn't just for traffic. It's used in criminal investigations, too." The word hit me like a fist. "Criminal investigations?" "Yeah," she said. "If a memory points to something suspicious or violent, we have to report it. There's a chain of custody, evidence protocols." I swallowed hard, trying to keep my mind from racing. "Listen," I said, trying to steer the conversation away. "I think maybe there's some kind of mistake here. I wasn't involved in anything, just a regular person." She shook her head slowly. "Sometimes people forget things they wish they didn't. Memories get suppressed or covered up. But the recaller sees through that. You can't hide from your own mind." Her words hung in the air like a warning. I looked at her and I knew. This was no longer just about hiding my past. This was a fight for survival. And the technology was already one step ahead. After Shazia left, the air in the house felt thick, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. I sat at the kitchen table for what felt like hours, staring at my hands. My mind was spinning faster than a carousel. That machine, the recaller, wasn't just some fancy gadget. It was a trap, a spy, a living witness that remembered everything, even the parts I tried to bury deep. And Shazia, she wasn't just some insurance rep. She was the front line of a storm I couldn't outrun. I knew I had to act, fast. I called my husband, pretending everything was fine. He told me about his day, the little things, how our son had learned a new word, how the neighbor's dog had run loose again. I smiled through the phone, but my heart wasn't in it. After I hung up, I started packing. I couldn't stay here, not with the threat of that machine still lurking in the background. My mind raced with possibilities. Could I destroy the device? Could I find a way to erase the data? Could I disappear? I had no answers. Instead, I drove out to the edge of town, where the shadows grew long and the roads got quieter. I parked by the river, looking at the dark water swirling below. It was cold, silent, but honest, if only things could be that simple. Then my phone buzzed. A message. No name, no number. "We see everything." My blood ran cold. I knew then that I wasn't just fighting the recaller. I was fighting someone else. Someone who knew my secrets. Someone who wanted to make sure I paid. I tried calling my husband, but no answer. I tried the house, but the line was dead. Panic settled in like a thick fog. That night I barely slept. I kept hearing noises outside, footsteps, whispers, the crunch of leaves underfoot. I checked the locks a dozen times. I looked out the window but saw nothing but shadows. The next morning, the police showed up. They said there was a break-in reported nearby. Nothing stolen, just a mess. Things moved around, drawers open, papers scattered. But it was enough to send a message. I told myself to keep calm, to stay strong. But every second I felt like the walls were closing in. Because I wasn't just running from my past anymore. I was running from a nightmare I could never wake up from.
The break-in changed everything. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every noise made me jump. The creak of the floor, the wind tapping the window, even the hum of the refrigerator. I kept looking over my shoulder, wondering if someone was watching, waiting to pounce. I knew I had to find out who was after me, but who? I started digging, quietly, carefully. My phone, my computer, anything I could use without leaving a trace. That's when I found it.
Encrypted messages, strange numbers, people talking in code. Someone was watching me, not just from afar, but close, too close. And they knew things, too many things. I tried asking friends, but the fear was contagious. People started to pull away, offering weak smiles and quick excuses. No one wanted to get involved. Except one person, a man named Marcus. He reached out through a burner phone, no caller ID, no history, just a voice. "Listen," he said, "I know what you're up against. That recaller thing, it's not just insurance, it's part of something bigger. Government, corporations, they're watching." I wanted to hang up, but something in his voice kept me listening. "Help me," he said. "I have info that can get you out, but you have to trust me." Trust. That word felt heavy, dangerous. But I was out of options. So I agreed. We met in a dingy cafe on the edge of town, the kind of place with cracked tiles and flickering neon signs. Marcus was older, maybe in his 40s, with tired eyes and a face that had seen too much. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were files, photos, blueprints, documents showing how the recaller was developed as a tool for control, how it was linked to a secret program monitoring people with dirty secrets. People like me. "This goes deeper than you think," Marcus whispered. "They don't just want to find you, they want to own you." I swallowed hard. The walls felt like they were closing in again. But for the first time, I had an ally. A fragile one, maybe, but someone. Working with Marcus felt like walking on thin ice. He knew things I didn't, names, places, people watching from the shadows. But every time I asked a question, he'd dodge it like a pro, like he was hiding something bigger than I could imagine. Still, it was better than facing this alone. We spent nights planning, going over every detail. I told him about Janice, the hotel, the wrench, the cold, the blood, how I tried to bury it all. He listened without blinking. "Too many loose ends," Marcus said finally. "They're not just after you because of that accident. They want the whole story. They want to control the narrative." I could feel the weight of those words like a brick on my chest. We came up with a plan. I'd lay low while Marcus hacked into the system tracking the recaller. If we could find a way to delete my memory trace, maybe I could disappear. But the deeper we dug, the darker it got. The files Marcus pulled up showed experiments, memories harvested without consent, people disappearing after their data was exposed, names I recognized from news reports, people who never came back. One night, Marcus said, "You need to be careful. There are eyes everywhere. I don't trust anyone, not even the people who seem to help." I nodded. Fear was creeping in, but I couldn't stop now. Not when I was this close. Then, out of nowhere, my phone rang. No caller ID. I didn't answer. The next day, a package showed up at my door. No return address. Inside, a single photo. Me, standing outside Janice's apartment, taken just days ago. I stared at it, heart hammering. They were watching. And they wanted me to know it.
The photo was a message. No words needed. Just me, caught in the frame, standing outside Janice's place like a guilty shadow. I dropped the picture on the kitchen table, hands shaking. Marcus was supposed to be my lifeline, my way out. But now, I didn't know what to think. Was he involved? Or had he led them right to me? I confronted him. His eyes were cold, calculating. "They know about me too," he said quietly. "If I don't cooperate, I'm finished." I wanted to scream, to run, to burn everything to the ground. But I couldn't. Not yet. I realized then
that trust was a luxury I didn't have. That night, I stayed awake, watching every shadow, every noise. Every second felt like a countdown. And then, the call. It was Marcus. His voice was low, urgent. "We've been compromised. You're not safe. You have to leave. Now." I grabbed a bag, shoved in clothes, cash, anything I could carry. I kissed my husband and son goodbye, whispered promises I wasn't sure I could keep. Outside, the night was cold, biting. I got in my car and drove. No map, no destination, just moving, running from ghosts I'd created. But no matter how far I went, the past was chasing me, and I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. I was driving without a map, without a destination. The dark road stretched ahead like a promise or a threat. Every mile felt heavier, like the weight of everything I'd done was piling up in the passenger seat beside me. I kept replaying Marcus's warning over and over in my head. "You're not safe. You have to leave." But where was away? Was there even such a place? I thought about my husband, my son, the life I was trying to protect, and how everything was slipping through my fingers like sand. I could hear my son's laughter in my mind, and it made me sick that I might never hear it again. Then the phone rang. No caller ID. I didn't answer, but it kept ringing and ringing. Finally, I broke down and picked up. A voice I didn't recognize whispered, "Mia, it's over. You can't hide anymore." My heart froze. I tried to ask who it was. The line went dead. I slammed the phone down, breathing hard. That voice knew things, too many things. I pulled over at a gas station, hands shaking. I needed a plan, a way out, but my mind was a mess. I called Marcus again. No answer. I texted him. No reply. I felt alone, completely. But then I saw it. A small note slipped under my windshield wiper. It read, "Meet me at the old bridge, midnight. Come alone." I had no choice. The night was cold, the wind biting, but I knew this was a crossroads. I drove to the bridge, every nerve screaming. When I got there, a shadow stepped out. "Marcus," I whispered. He looked tired, beaten, but determined. "You have to decide," he said. "Fight or run. But whatever you do, don't let them own you." I clenched my fists. This was it. The old bridge was shrouded in fog, like the world itself was holding its breath. I pulled up in the car, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. Marcus was already there, leaning against the rusty railing, his face a mask of exhaustion and determination. "Glad you came," he said without looking up. I stepped out, the cold biting through my jacket. "I told you I had to decide, fight or run." He nodded. "There's no running left, Mia. They've tracked you everywhere. The recaller isn't just a machine. It's a weapon, and they'll use it to break you." I looked at him, searching for hope. "What's the plan?" I asked. Marcus pulled out a flash drive. This has everything. Proof of the program, the surveillance, the people behind it all. We leak this and the whole thing comes crashing down. "But they'll come after us," I said, voice trembling. "That's why we need to act fast. You're the key. You have to go public." I swallowed hard. The thought of exposing everything terrified me. My secrets, my mistakes, my crimes, all laid bare. "Are you sure?" I asked. "As sure as I can be. But you're not alone. I've got your back." We spent the night preparing, encrypting files, setting up secure channels. I thought about my family, about what this could mean for them. Could they survive the fallout? Could I? The dawn was breaking, and we sent the leak. The world exploded. News outlets picked it up. Social media lit on fire. Governments denied it, covered it up. But the damage was done. People started asking questions. And somewhere in the chaos, I felt a strange calm. Because I was finally free. Free from the lies, free from the fear, free to face whatever came next.